Hi folks, I hope this is going to be a very short video. Just a quick update on some experiments I was having to try and force the chemical reactions in the whiskey to try and see whether it's heading in the right direction. The experiments I was doing looked like they were going to have a positive effect. It looked like it was heading in the right way. I had some improvement that I noticed in the whiskey from both microwaving it to try and accelerate the chemical reactions, and by placing it on a windowsill so that it was actually getting a lot of sunlight, again to try and accelerate the chemical reactions. Not the same as proper aging, but I was hoping it would give me an indication of where the whiskey was going and whether it was worthwhile bothering with it. Short term, it looked like it was heading the right way. There were some improvements. But now that it's been going a bit longer, all the experiments I've got seem to have gone to a very sour oaky flavour. It's lost any of the benefits that it did have. It's certainly better than the original spirit, and so it has improved it to a degree. But it looks like it's just going to get worse. It's not indicating that it's going to get any better than what it is. I guess not without some really long aging. So what I did, the main experiment that I tried was using sunlight to try and accelerate the chemical reactions, in a hope that that would give me an indication of what I could possibly get if I left it a longer period in a cool place with just the oak. Things such as this, where I have about 200 millilitres of spirit. There's a few pieces of oak in there, and then I leave that in the windowsill to let the sunlight get at it. The temperature gets increased, gets to about 34 degrees centigrade inside the bottle after a morning of sunlight, and that accelerates the chemical processes that are going on in there to try and see where it would go if it was allowed to work slower for a longer period of time. I had various combinations of spirit. This one again has got some wood in the bottom, and this one has some of my peated malt in there, whereas the other bottle only has just standard malt without any peated barley in it at all. Also, I had a bunch more spirit which has no oak at all in it. And I have various different bottles with different proportions of either just the base spirit or the base spirit and some of the peated spirit in it as well. In all cases, it's just coming out woody and sour. The sour note seems to have developed. It wasn't in the original spirit. It didn't taste particularly nice before, but this sourness to it, it seems to be something that has developed from the chemical reactions that have taken place. I'm much better at running the still these days than I was when I first started. So I think a large portion of the problem is that I've been too greedy when I first started. And the very small amounts of heart that I was getting just seemed not worthwhile, so I took a wider margin than maybe I should have done. My experiment with microwaving consisted of taking a litre of spirit in an open container, blasting it with microwaves in batches of 30 seconds, and it usually took sort of 2 or 3 to get it up to about 50 degrees centigrade. Then letting that spirit cool back down again for a few hours, and then taking a sample, putting it into a 50 milliliter bottle, and then putting the remainder back into the microwave, heating it back up again, and then letting it cool, taking another sample. And I repeated that 6 times. until I ended up with this range of samples of increasing numbers of microwave treatments. What I found is I couldn't tell any difference in the first couple of bottles, but after about 3 microwave treatments like this, I could actually taste a difference between the unchanged original and the new sample. So it was obviously having a difference. Now what that difference might be is difficult to judge. I have no chemical analysis equipment or anything like that. I can actually take some real scientific approach to it. All I'm relying on is my taste buds to detect a difference. But the difference showed that the spirit was becoming less harsh, and not quite so rough feeling like young whiskey normally does. Having found the first sample that showed a difference, testing the remaining ones that had more microwave cycles applied to them, I couldn't notice any significant difference. They weren't getting any better than that one. So I decided that 3 or maybe 4 cycles was the optimum for what I had and what I think I'm seeing in the flavour. The result of that is that there was made a difference, and that with the sunlight trial, where I noticed a difference from the spirit being in sunlight initially. It went to off and it didn't progress well, leaving it in the sunlight longer. One of the jars that I've got I'm going to continue with. It's had 4 microwave treatments, and it's been sat on the windowsill for a month. It's now going to come off of there and be put aside, and that will be my one remaining jar of original spirit. So this is the jar of spirit that I'm going to continue experimenting with. As you can see, I've left a reasonable headspace at the top. And I'm not sure you can see it very well in there, but there's a collection of small oak pieces. What I've tried to do is calculate out the amount of surface area that is on these small pieces of oak. Assume that the spirit would soak into a barrel by about 1 centimetre. So I calculated out how much volume of oak would be used in a barrel, not just its surface area but how much it soaks into a barrel, and used that as a basis for how much oak to put in here. The assumption being that the spirit will be able to get into all of the oak that's here because they're small pieces, and therefore the total volume of oak there is about the same proportion as what I assume, and it is an assumption on my part, will be pulled out of a barrel, of the appropriate to the volume of spirit that I've had. I'll open the jar occasionally to let the oxygen replenish, but ultimately this is going to go back into a cool, dark place to sit and hopefully mature to a reasonable level. The rest of my spirit is all going to be thrown back through the still in an attempt to clean it up, see what I get from it. If I can get a cleaner heart cut that still has a bit of flavour, then I'll put it back on oak and age it. If it comes off the still and doesn't feel like it's good, then I'll be putting it through a still a couple of times to clean it up to a neutral. So that's where I am with all my experiments. Not a particularly successful 1.5 years in terms of spirit produced, but I've learned a hell of a lot about the process of doing this, and the stages of fermenting and distilling, and a little bit about the aging. Obviously my aging experiments have failed. I believe it's because I've taken too wide a cut from the original spirit and I've just got way too much heads and tails in there to clean up in any reasonable time. So it's a bit back to the drawing board. I need to do a bit more research to see what other people have done, styles of whiskey that are drinkable a lot earlier. It's all subjective in that my taste is different from somebody else's, and what I regard as suitable may not be the same as somebody else. And as a consequence, it's very difficult to try and judge when someone says, yeah, it's great, I can drink it straight off the still, it just needs a couple of months to settle down, and it's brilliant. And to what they think of as brilliant. So I think there'll be a few experiments that I'll want to do to try some different things. So the first of those experiments is that I'm going to produce some of Odin's rye bread whiskey. I'm going to see where that comes. It seems quite favourable in terms of its flavour coming quite quickly off the still and not taking long to settle down. So I'll try that, see what I think of it.